One of the things that the raters are looking for on the writing test is your ability to express the right tone and level of formality in a particular situation. Remember that the CELPIP test measures your ability to use English appropriately in everyday situations. A big part of communicating effectively in daily situations is being able to select words and phrases that are not only grammatically correct, but that also suit the situation. When we say that certain words and phrases suit the situation, what we mean is that those words express the right emotional tone and convey the correct level of formality that we would expect in that situation. So there are two issues here we need to consider when getting ready for the writing test: tone and formality. Let's start off by talking about formality. As with most languages, there are several levels of formality in English. There are some words and phrases that you use with close friends and others that you would only use in special circumstances when speaking with people to whom you wish to express a degree of respect. If I were to meet the Prime Minister of Canada, it would not be appropriate for me to say, "Hey PM, how's it going?" If I am talking to my old friend, who I have known since high school, I probably would not address him as "dear, esteemed companion." If I were writing an essay in university, I would use more formal language than in a birthday card to a coworker. If I was sending out a memo in a large company, I would use fairly formal language as well, although the words I chose would be less academic than those that I would use in an essay and more suited to the world of business. These various levels of formality relate to particular situations and the status of the people who are being addressed. They do not necessarily reflect a writer's emotions. If I were to write a letter to a local politician complaining of high municipal taxes, and then another letter to a different politician in support of his plan to create more public parks, the emotions I express, that is, the tone of the letters, would be quite different, but I would probably use the same level of formality in both. Okay, so tone refers to the emotions you express, such as happy, grateful, disappointed, or angry. Formality refers to the level of language you will use, and that will depend mostly on who you are talking to and in what situation. Now remember that the writing test is assessing your ability to express yourself in ordinary, day-to-day situations, so you probably won't need to use the highest levels of formality. However, you don't want to use extremely informal language either. Here are some things to watch out for when considering the level of formality of your writing. Remember who you are writing to. If you are writing an email to your manager, you wouldn't greet him by writing, "Hey boss," nor would you write, "Dear sir." In Canada, we usually use first names with people we know, even if they are our superiors. So you could start an email to your boss by writing something like, "Hi Dave." It's okay to use abbreviations such as can't, couldn't, won't, and your, but it is not a good idea to write wanna instead of want to, or coulda instead of could have, or shoulda instead of should have. All of these would be considered far too informal. Avoid using slang and abbreviations that are common on social media, such as what's up, LOL, or emoticons like the sideways smiley face. In general, test takers tend to make mistakes by using overly informal language rather than being too formal. However, it is important to note that you could lose points for being too formal if the words or phrases that you use do not suit the situation. If you were responding to a survey asking whether you thought dogs should be allowed on ferries, it would be strange to say something like, "It is a great honor to be able to state at this time, with the utmost sincerity, that I have always felt that people should be allowed to travel with their dogs." Instead, it would be far more appropriate in the context of a survey about something as ordinary as dogs on the ferry to simply say, "Let me start off by saying that I've always thought that people should be allowed to travel with dogs." When it comes to tone, the key is to use language that conveys the emotions that would be considered appropriate for a particular situation. Now, whatever emotion you express, it is always a good idea to maintain a certain level of polite restraint. Avoid aggressive or insulting language, even when making a complaint. It is far better to maintain a certain level of politeness in your writing, even when expressing something negative. It would be better to say, "I hope we are able to arrive at a resolution to this problem by the end of this week at the latest without my having to take any further steps," than, "You'd better come up with a solution by the end of the week or else I'm going to talk to your manager." Okay, so that's just a few examples of how the language you use in Task 1 and Task 2 of the writing test can affect the tone and level of formality of your response. The key thing to remember is simply that both tone and formality are aspects of your writing that the raters are looking at. So it's a good idea to ask yourself the following questions about your writing response. Does the level of formality expressed in my writing suit the situation? Have I used any slang or overly informal language in my writing? Have I used any words or phrases that may be too formal for the situation? And does my writing express the right emotional tone without being too extreme in any way?